Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today I'm going to be telling you all about this new palette from NYX. This is the Ignite palette from their new Machinist line. There are a few cheek duos and lip products as well as 2 other palettes in this Machinist release. I did also order the Grind palette, so I will be doing a video on that one in the near future. There's also a more cool toned, grayish, purpley toned palette called Steam. These are brand new and they're available from the NYX website as well as at Ulta. I ordered mine from Ulta and they are $25 each. That is so freaking expensive for a drugstore brand. I thought the Away We Glow and Love You So Mochi palettes were expensive, and these are even more costly. So we're gonna take an in-depth look at the Ignite palette today and find out if it's worth the $25 price tag or not. The cover art on these palettes is really cool. I love this very industrial, steampunk type of theme that they have going on. The outer packaging of the palette is a heavy-duty plastic and it has a locking clasp closure, so it is not magnetic. On the back of the palette we see a sticker with the shades numbered, so these shades do not have actual names, just numbers. Inside there is a nice size mirror and there are 12 eyeshadow shades. In this Ignite palette we're seeing 3 true mattes and then 3 that are sort of matte with a little bit of sparkle in them, and then 6 shimmers. Of course, I'm wearing this palette on my eyes today, so I will do a quick tutorial, but first I want to do some swatches of this palette for you. As always, I will be doing both finger and brush swatches on the back of my hand. No primer down or anything like that, just the eyeshadows straight onto my skin. The finger swatches will be on top and then the brush swatches will be below. For my brush swatches, I'll be using my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I'll clean the brush off in between each shade using my trusty Veramona color switch. Here's the top row from the palette. We have shades 1, 2, 3, and 4. Creative genius on the naming there. Shade number 1 is just a plain old off-white matte shade. 2 is this really cool like silvery lavender shade, which performed much better than shade number 3, which is this coppery orange shimmer. This shade I actually had to scrape off the top layer to get any sort of pigment to show up with either the brush or the finger swatch. And shade number 4 is one of the mattes with a sparkle in it, but you can tell once it's applied to the skin it really just looks like a matte. This is a really nice warm like melon pink shade. This is the middle row of the palette, shades 5, 6, 7, and 8. This first one is a very neutral bronze shimmer. Shade 6 is a cool toned olive green. It looks almost gray once it's applied to the skin, but this is another matte with a little bit of sparkle that basically just looks like a matte. Then we have this matte terracotta color, and shade number 8 is a deep warm purple shimmer. Here's the last row of swatches, the very bottom of the palette, shades 9, 10, 11, and 12. According to the back of the palette, these 2 shades, 9 and 10, are pressed pigments. Texture and performance-wise, they don't feel any different from the other matte shades in the palette, so I'm not super sure what the difference is, but these 2 pressed pigment shades are a light berry red and then a deeper sort of Merlot shade. Then we have another purple shimmer, though this one is a little bit more cool toned, whereas the other one was warmer. And the last shade in the palette is a deep teal blue with a ton of silver sparkle in it. And in this shade you can see that the sparkle actually really hangs on even in the brush swatch. Now that you've seen all the swatches, let's jump into a quick tutorial using the Ignite palette, and then I'll wrap up all my thoughts at the end. I'm gonna start off, just like I always do, by priming my eyes with my favorite eye base. It's the MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. Then I'm gonna set that eye base with shade number 1 from the Ignite palette. For my transition shade, I'm gonna go to shade number 7, a warm matte terracotta color, and I'm gonna build that into the crease. Then I'm gonna add shade number 6 with a flat brush. I'm packing that onto the outer part of the eye, and I did build this up pretty slowly because I wanted it to be nice and dark and it didn't apply as darkly as I thought it was going to. Now I'm gonna move on to my all over lid color. I'm using this bronzy color, shade number 5, and I'm applying that with my fingertip over the rest of my eyelid. Then I'm gonna go back to my original transition shade number 7 and put that on my lower lash line. And I did want to go back and add even more depth with shade number 6 with that same flat packing brush. For my inner corner highlight, I used this lavender shade number 2 and put that around the inner corner of my eye. I curled my lashes and added some of my L'Oreal Lash Paradise mascara. Some of these shadows took a little bit more work than usual to make work, but overall I am really happy with how this look turned out. All in all, I feel very meh about this palette. The color scheme is nice. I like the mix of warm and cool tones in here. I think there are some really interesting shades in here, like this shimmery taupe color. I really like the super sparkly teal blue. Some of the colors are a little bit too close for me. Like the two shimmers seem a little repetitive. These two like medium warm mattes. These two, like I don't think all of these shades are super different and necessary. If a couple of those shades that I mentioned were replaced by something a little bit more exciting or a little bit more different, I think I would really be in love with the color scheme. Sort of middle of the road for me. Formula-wise, I find the shimmers to be quite lacking in here. I'm surprised by how well these mattes perform with the brush, even blending out on the lid itself. They work really nicely. They apply easily, blend easily. Those are all good things, but the shimmers are just very lackluster for me. A couple of the shades, particularly this third shade, the copper shimmer, I had to really dig in and kind of scrape off the top layer to even get any sort of pigmentation out of that one. And across the board with the shimmers, I experienced a lot of fallout that I didn't get from the matte shades. I like this idea. I like the palette size. I like the packaging. I think the theme is really cool and different. It's very NYX. They tend to be a little bit edgier as far as drugstore makeup goes. Overall, I just don't think this palette is worth the price for the formula. Of the 3 palettes in the Machinist line, Ignite is probably the most wearable or approachable for people who aren't into super colorful makeup. So I like it, but I just don't love it. I don't think it's worth the $25. Maybe if you got this on a great sale, then I would say if you're into these colors, go for it. But I do think $25 is too much to ask for this palette. If the shimmers had performed better, if there was just a little bit more variety in the shades, it would be worth it for me. I'd say I'd be happy paying like $15 for this palette, but I don't feel that I got my money's worth for my 25 bucks at the end of the day. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these palettes. Have you tried them? Have you swatched them? Are they on your wish list? Leave a comment and let us know what you think. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Of course, they start mowing as soon as I'm ready to film. The Machinist palette. This isn't a Machinist palette. It's the Ignite palette. Freaking fly. Why? Awesome. Hold on, my dad's calling. Let's jump into these swatches. Ring light probs. Ring light probs. At least they're better than the Maybelline palettes. That's not a high bar to set. Okay, great. Sad but true. And yet I ordered 2 of them. Great. Killing it. Look at all the fallout. Ah, oh, bye-bye. This also doesn't have very good ratings on Ulta, given there's like 4 reviews, but freaking fly. Okay, calm down. All right. Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.